iHeart to OKC for 3 years, $87 million. It's official. The New York Knicks are no longer finals contenders or even ECF contenders. Let's talk about it. Hit that rock. Before we get started, make sure to hit the like, subscribe to the channel. Make sure to hit the dark notification bell to get each and every notification for each and every video I put out there. Also, visit UnderddogFantasy.com. Get matched up to $500 using code word Legion or LOK on your first deposit. First and foremost, salute to my guy, bartender at Bar Great Harry in Brooklyn, located on Smith Street. I'm forgetting the exact location. You can look it up on Google. That's my guy out there. Forgetting your name, I apologize. I'm terrible with names, man, but salute to him. Say he supported the channel, saw me across on YouTube, said he gave me a follow. I appreciate you, my guys. Again, please go freaking that bar. He's typically there on the weekends. He's like if Orlando Pace was like a dark-skinned dude. I don't know how to describe him, like a tall, big-ass offensive lineman looking dude. Cool dude, man. Always playing some great music, some great hip-hop, and then put some freaking random Miley Cyrus or trollers, but suit to my guy, man. Suit to Bar Great Harry. Please go visit on Smith Street in Brooklyn, New York. So obviously, it's official. iHeart press conference with the OKC Thunder, signing with them for 3 years, $87 million, with a team option in the third year. Seeming like he may not be a long-term stay there, especially when they got to pay Chet and Jalen Williams in a few years. They obviously brought him over for his rebounding, and your man iHeart sitting up there talking about, oh, I'm gonna show new things. I really wasn't able to do what I really want, or like show what I can really do, 3-point shooting with the Knicks. Really, if you look at your 3-point splits, they're not that great. Now, obviously, the percentage was okay the past few years, excluding what the Knicks did, or what you did with the Knicks. But again, you were averaging like 0.3 3-pointers a game. But anyway, I mean, look, you can say what you want, but your man Tom Thibodeau got you paid because of your rebounding and your assist numbers, your facilitating. Obviously, you're a great asset here. But to sit up there and say that, come on, iHeart. And granted, from what Presti said, it seems like they're going to try to see what works between him and Chet. So that's not to say that he's going to automatically be starting every game or not. They could be tinkering the lineup, seeing what works. Despite the fact you got $29 million on average on your contract, it is what it is. Tom Thibodeau got you paid, but I guess you need to show a little bit more. Ben Wallace said the same thing when he went from the Pistons to the Bulls and flopped. But anyway, that's not to say that I want iHeart to do any bad. Again, I put a lot of respect on this guy's name. This guy fought through an Achilles injury last year, Mitch Robinson being out, and it probably was still hampering him, but he had so many other injuries, including OJ Anunoby and whatnot. So I give him a lot of credit for that. You talk about just his impact on the court, talk about his passing ability, going from assist percentage around, 8.3% his first year to 15 his second year. Obviously, a lot of that had to do with Tom Thibodeau, how they used him, but it's a guy who's shown that he was probably our second best facilitator, and that's including Randall. Sorry to say that. I know people might kill me to that. And again, from one of the better tandems in the league with Jalen Brunson, with an offense. When you look at all the possessions and offense with Brunson that ranked in the 98th percentile regarding points per 100 possessions. You're talking about an offensive rating that was 8 points better with him on the court at 122 versus when he was off the court. You're also talking about a guy who was an elite, I say he's elite, but he's a really good rebounder, especially on the offensive ends, especially with Mitch Robinson being out. And this is a guy who was able to space the floor without being able to be a proper outside shooter. Just his passing, low, his facilitating, his IQ was good enough to be. A lot of Knicks actually run, a decent amount of 5 out in their offense, something that Mitch Robinson just couldn't afford us. But again, to me, all respect to iHeart, man. God bless you. You're a great asset here. Love seeing you play, man. Giving your heart out each and every time. I know it was a tough decision for you. Money is a money, man. That's life-changing money. I can't talk. It is what it is, man. Take your money. Hope you do well with it. You and your family can eat well off of that. But the Knicks are now looking for secondary options in the market to back up Mitch Robinson, who again has been injury prone these past few years. And it's crazy. Every year there's been someone who's kind of made their wares and made some money. With Mitch Robinson being out the first time, it was known as the well with a superlative defensive year for the Knicks. He got 30 for 3 from the Knicks. it wasn't crazy money, but it was good money, especially after he missed out a few years ago when he decided to better himself and got screwed over on a contract, and then iHeart obviously this year. But to provide some context, man, the Knicks gonna have a little bit of money to play with now. Obviously, sending Mamadi Diakite and Shake Milton to the Brooklyn Nets for the Mikal Bridges trade. The Knicks now have about $15 million to play with before they get hard cap at the second apron. Now the whole reason why they sent me Mamadi Diakite, I messed up his name, is Shake Milton, was obviously to avoid being hard cap at that first apron. And there was talks about sending Miles McBride, but the Knicks were able to get away from that, able to send Shake Milton through a sign and trade with the Brooklyn Nets to avoid that issue. And now the Knicks now have about a $5.2 million taxpayer mid-level exception they can use to sign a free agent, as well as sending some money to pressure Chua's way to resign. I believe he's a restricted free agent. But we got to go over some of the options that are available in both the free agent market as well as the trade channel. You got guys like Andre Drummond re-signed with the 76ers. You got Nick Claxton expect to go back to the Brooklyn Nets. I think they expect them to earn anywhere from $20 to $25 million, which is crazy. Solid player though. You got guys like Mason Plumlee signed with the Suns. His name is Queta, back with the Celtics, or with the Celtics, excuse me. Xavier Tillman back with the Celtics. You got Mo Bamba to the Clippers. You got Wiseman, who I thought Tom Thibodeau, suit to Nick G for mentioning this, a guy that I warmed up to the idea of Tom Thibodeau possibly refining, because he seems to be doing a good job in getting the most out of the front court guys who have arrived here or who are already here. But Wiseman is now with the Pacers. You got Mo Wagner back to the Magic. And you also got Jalen Smith, my guy from Maryland. Guy could space out the floor a little bit, play some defense. He's with the Bulls now. Jonas Valanciunas with the Wizards as well too. So it's tough to look at the free agency market and feel confident in the options that are available, given the fact that so many guys are off now. When you look at some of the guys available in the trade market, guys like Nick Richards of the Hornets got 2 years, $10 million left on his contract. And this is a guy who's been ascending the past few years. People think that he's taking kind of a big man step in the second year. You're talking about a guy last season averaged 9.7 points a game, 8 rebounds, 1.1 blocks, 0.8 assists a game, along with 69% from the field, 73.7% from the stripe. A solid player who was 16th in contested rebounds last year, as well as 13th in offensive rebounds. Was definitely an important attribute that Tom Thibodeau's preached with this roster since he's gotten here. You also have to consider that it possibly means moving a guy like Miles McBride, trying to make that contract work, because Miles McBride is making around $4.7 million this year. Nick Richards, when you look at it and how the lineup is set up, with Dante DiVincenzo going to the bench, does Dante and Miles McBride create a redundancy? Does Nick Richards provide you with enough in that backup position? It might tilt more to the latter, so it could definitely be a possibility. But Nick Richards is one that the Knicks and Knicks fans do have to consider possibly shifting away from Miles McBride to acquire and provides that depth, that needed depth, as guys on the Eastern Conference start to stack up some of their bigs to make these playoff runs. Another name that's come up several times is Walker Kessler, third-year guy in Utah. Will be a third-year guy in Utah, come out of Auburn. A guy who's earned all rookie NBA honors, as well as being voted third in Rookie of the Year voting. A guy who averaged his rookie season 9.2 points a game, 8.4 rebounds, 2.3 blocks a game, and was a solid defensive stalwart for the Jazz, but kind of seemed to regress his second year in the league, dropping to 8.1 points a game, 7.5 rebounds, 2.1 blocks, but largely being assessed as a guy who was largely invisible in the offense, a guy that even defensively has been assessed as kind of like a drop back big, can't really play on the perimeter. Just a severely limited player outside of defense and impact on offense in the paint. A guy who, when you talk about the screen game as well too, only averaged 2.2 screen assists a game and only generated 5.2 points off of those screens, which put him in the same space as guys like Jock Londell as well as Bismack Biyombo, which is just not a good category to be placed in. And this is, looking at what the Jazz have been doing last year, toying around with Taylor Hendricks, my son from UCF. They were toying around with Taylor Hendricks at the 5 position. That's with all the injuries and setbacks he had throughout the season regarding his health. Now, again, 22 years old, Walker Kessler. He's making $3 million this year, $4.8 million the next year on a club option. So he's still relatively cheap. But Danny Ainge deals in the trenches. He's gonna possibly want something, especially from the Knicks and the whole saga with Donovan Mitchell. He might want, I'm gonna say King's ransom, but might want to tie a little something that may not be worth it for the Knicks. But when you look at Walker Kessler, does he provide you what Hart provides you? Definitely not. Is he a good backup for Mitchell Robinson in terms of I just need somebody to defend in the paint, finish on the pick and rolls, and just be a defensive stalwart, and we'll just play small the rest of the way? He could do that, but remains to be seen. It's all up to what Danny Ainge wants and what Tom Thibodeau wants to do regarding his front court. Now, one thing I want to talk about before we move on to some other names is when you look at the Knicks, the whole idea of playing small has actually not truly been too successful for the Knicks over the past few seasons. Guys like Obi Toppin failed to provide that protection at the 4 spot, the rebound and defense you need to put alongside Julius Randle. And Julius Randle, even last year, only played about 28 possessions last year. We were strictly the 5, and that included possessions where you had guys like R.J. Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley. Now, when you look at the possibilities, whether it's not playing small with guys like OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges, when you look at OG Anunoby did provide some value, especially on the defensive side. Out of 781 possessions, he played at the 4 position. Now, the Knicks' offense was at 120 points per 100 possessions, which ranked in the 58th percentile. But we were 83rd in defensive points given up 100 per 100 possessions, as well as 81st in the rebounding percentage. So again, defensively, OG Anunoby. Now you don't want him hitting and clanking and running into players and getting a lot of contact, just given his injury history and how brittle he can be. But it is a possibility. Now, Mikal Bridges, you definitely haven't seen it the last few seasons, say with the Nets, where he's kind of like the number 1 option. But you could go back to 2021, 2022, where he's a run-up in Defensive Player of the Year, and see how he played as more of a lower usage two-way wing. Just given the fact that he's allowed to be more of a rebound defensive asset and then play off the ball away from Booker and CP3. And then he played the number 1 kind of offensive role at times when Booker was out, as well as CP3. But you given what he had last year, the Nets, those kind of relatively weaker rebounding defensive numbers overall, I expect that to go or be the norm going forward with the Knicks. I expect to see more of the 2021, 2022. And that's, imagine him playing at the 3 position, OG at the 4, Randle at the 5. So again, not a lot of so-called data with those guys playing. There's really no data at all with those guys playing together. But the Knicks have historically always had somebody at that center position to help regarding the rebounding. Obviously, Mitchell Robinson was kind of doing it by himself. When you look at Mitch Robinson, he a bunch of contested rebounds. He's a guy that you don't have to sick 2-3 other players to kind of help out. Ihart is a little bit different, but the Knicks were able to keep those rebounding numbers as well as the defense intact for the most part last season. It'll be interesting to see what they do this season, number-wise, especially rotations, how those look when we want to play small. We have to sit down with Robinson, knock on wood. Hopefully he doesn't, but if he does get hurt, how the lineup looks, especially if you don't get the backup big. So another name that comes to mind, even though it's highly improbable, is Alperen Şengün. Now, Şengün, I know he's Turkey. You sure you're not Nigerian, son, Şengün? Anyway, so to all the Turks out there. But your man Alperen Şengün has been coming up in trade rumors. Now, it seems as if this kind of peaked once there was some initial interest from Udoka with Kevin Durant. I think Udoka just wants a star. He wants a viable star to kind of expedite the so-called building process with the Rockets. He may be a little bit tired of Jalen Green. Could be also including another trade. I think he's making like 12.4, 12.7 this year. Now, Alperen Şengün was only making 5.7, 5 million, something like that, or something around that area. But you're talking about a guy who's putting up 21 points a game, putting up 9.3 rebounds a game, 5 assists, one of the better playmakers at the 5 position in the league. The guy in his rookie season, according to advanced analytics that I do not like to use, VORP BPM was a top 90 player his rookie season. So Alperen Şengün, to me, would be a ridiculous get for the Knicks. Highly improbable. Don't think it's happening, but again, the name was put out there, so it could be something that peeks its head again in the trade room. Is not sure who your man Udoka would want from the Knicks in terms of a star to kind of expedite the process. But again, we only could trade off what 5.7. The numbers have to match, so I guess it'd be Miles McBride. You have to give a bunch of firsts for Alperen Sengun. But again, highly improbable. I think that once Kevin Durant, once the Rockets are like, yeah, we're good with Kevin Durant, one of the biggest malcontents in the league, who's already running himself out of Phoenix, it seems like, complaining about the offense, saying he's stuck in the corner, he's not really implementing the offense, really. Anyway, seems as after that kind of died out, when the Rockets like, we ain't training for no damn Durant, let's continue to build. I think the whole Alperen Sengun rumors kind of fade away, but again, that's another name that comes up, and he would fit perfectly in a Tom Thibodeau offense. One of the reasons probably why the Knicks were interested in a guy like Khalil Ware, offensively sound player who can do a little bit of everything, even though Alperen's a way better ball handler, facilitator, playmaker than Ware even coming out. But just to have that offensive skill and versatility at the center position is definitely something the Knicks are looking forward to. But again, Alperen Sengun, probably 99.9% not coming to the Knicks this season, but definitely a name that should ring some bells in the rumors, just in case either team starts to falter. The bells start ringing. Now, some other names have come up, guys like Wendell Carter with the Magic. He's been up in trade moves for rumors for the last year and a half. A solid offensive player. But I don't see the Magic trading off from him, and definitely not going to trade him off to a contender in the Knicks to embolden us while they're trying to make a run as well too, or trying to continue to develop and move up in the Eastern Conference. Brook Lopez is another name that's come up with the Bucks, making $23 million a year. We don't really have the contracts to match up with him. We can't aggregate contracts once we're above that second apron. So once you're that second apron, if you don't have a direct contract or a contract 1-for-1 to trade off, you can't really make that move for Brook Lopez, despite the fact that he probably would be able to space the floor adequately, as well as give you that defense in the paint, as well as a rebounding. He'd be a really nice asset for the Knicks in the front court. That's just not happening, though. DeAndre Ayton, come on, dogs. I'm not trading for that contract, and he would be a nightmare in Tom Thibodeau's system. This is a guy who didn't want to play Imani Williams pick and roll. Doesn't play more of the traditional big alongside guys like Booker and CP3. Kind of quitting that team too. I don't care what no one says. He quitting that team in the finals because he wasn't getting his way. He'd be a nightmare in Tom Thibodeau's system. Clint Capella making $22 million as a backup center. I believe this is last year with the Atlanta Hawks. I had to check out. I think this is last year with the Atlanta Hawks. Hawks could be in a slight rebuild or retool. Or rebuild, because they said everybody's available. And I told you, Trae Young, the system is going to break down. The Trae Young system does not work. They already traded off DeJounte Murray. And I think the only guy who is untouchable is the ascending Jalen Johnson. But I don't see us touching Clint Capella at that money again. Contracts have to match. I don't think we have a contract right now that could actually truly match up with that 22 that we would be okay with giving up for a guy like Clint Capella. We probably want some cheaper options for guys who kind of run the floor, run the pick and roll, and rebound, and defend the paint. Some other options: Omar Yurtseven, like I said before, came off, just got waived by the Jazz. Could he be a guy that the Knicks look at for extremely cheap? Could they give him the MLE? 5.2. I don't know if he's worth that much. I think he was getting paid $4 or $5 million from the Jazz. The guy who kind of flashed a few years ago with the Heat. I thought he was a guy who's a solid inside presence, but still a lot of question marks to his game. Doesn't really space the floor adequately, but he's a very toolsy type of player. But at worst, if no other teams pick him up, you try to put him in a G League, see what he can offer you. Something to think about, but those are some of the names that have kind of crossed my mind in terms of available guys on the trade market as well as the free agency market. But let's look at the impact that this may have on a player, guy the Knicks just drafted, and Tyler Kolek. Now, the New York Knicks just gave Tyler Kolek out of Marquette what's wrong with me? Gave him the highest amount in guaranteed money for a second round pick at $6.6 million. So Knicks have high expectations for Tyler Kolek. Now, when you look at his game, there's a guy who does really well in the pick and roll. He was a guy who was able to find bigs last year, Marquette, guys like Oso Iguodala, help that guy get into the league with his playmaking, Tyler Kolek's playmaking, especially off the pick and roll. This guy, Tyler Kolek, when you look at his game, you kind of say, now again, I'm not saying he's in this mold, but if the Knicks go back to having traditional bigs like we had a few years ago when we made the playoffs with Nones of Wells, if we can't get that, a replace from iHeart kind of replicate that impact, the facilitating from a big, then I could see the Knicks depending heavily on a playmaker from the bench, something that we did a few years ago with Derrick Rose. And I'm not saying Tyler Kolek's that. He's not that. I'm not saying that. Tyler Kolek will be a pick and roll heavy, even off guard type of guy, a spark plug. If you get that shooting to translate early on, and them paying him that money, that guaranteed money, they have high expectations for him. I can see him playing some staggered minutes, playing alongside guys like Randall. I don't know if he'd be an off guard next to Brunson, but I could definitely see him spelling Brunson even more minutes. You just don't want to run Brunson through the ring. He played heavy minutes last year, and Tom Thibodeau plays his top players heavy minutes anyway. But I think some of those minutes were kind of forced because Tyler Kolek, because we didn't really have any other options, didn't have any other real creators on the bench. Now with Don DiVincenzo moving to the bench, does Miles McBride become somewhat of a redundancy? Do they kind of shift the minutes towards Tyler Kolek, especially if he shows out in the summer league? Now, granted, you look at the Knicks bench, why it may fit well for Tyler Kolek to make an impact is because the Knicks bench was trash in terms of scoring last year. 27th in the league in terms of points per game. So when you look at a guy like Tyler Kolek, who could open up the floor for guys like Don DiVincenzo, as well as Josh Hart operating that pick and roll, I mean, he could be a major plus multiplier. It'd be interesting to see how the Knicks utilize him this summer league. Daisuke Yashimoto, as well as Tom Thibodeau, who typically comes to Summer League and does his coaching from the bench. We've seen it. Tom Thibodeau is probably one of the more involved coaches in the Summer League team, seen it over the past few years. You saw it in IQ's second year, going from his rookie to his second season in the league, where he was basically coaching up, telling Daisuke, and you saw IQ run a lot of pick and roll, run a lot of read and react in the Summer League. And so I'm interested to see how they develop your man Tyler Kolek, who I'm thinking, now this sounds crazy, psychotic. If Tyler Kolek finds a way to give you 15, 20 minutes a game, now that comes at expense of some guys like my done life, Miles McBrittlesteins. If Tyler Kolek finds a way to be that impact player, pick and roll maestro, some say, TJ McConnell, he needs that mid-range jumper to be a TJ McConnell. Some say Goran Dragic, lefty, tricky lefty, can operate in a pick and roll. A little shifty player could shoot. If Tyler Kolek is able to run the Knicks offense from the bench effectively and get you in a top 15 rank offense off the bench, Tyler Kolek, rookie of the year. Whoa, chill. Whoa. You're doing too much, Gmo. You need help. You need God in your life. Maybe run up rookie of the year. I'm just saying. Impact, and everybody likes surprising, player that no one, oh my gosh, second round pick that came out of nowhere that's giving you 15 points, 6 assists. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there. Just keep that in mind. But let's look at how the lack of a center right now, or iHeart's departure, and possibly not be able to replace that production impacts the Knicks in the Eastern Conference. Let's look at the three teams who the Knicks struggled against the most in the Eastern Conference. That'll be the Celtics with 4 losses against them. And then the Magic as well as the Bucks with both 3 losses against those squads. Now, our biggest foe was probably the Celtics. You look at the Celtics, one of the better defensive rebounding teams, one of the poor offensive rebounding teams. I say that because juxtaposed to the Knicks as one of the better offensive rebounding teams in the league. Now, the Celtics led the leagues in defensive rebounds in the regular season, as well as third in the all-important contested defensive rebounds. And in the playoffs, didn't really skip a beat. They were second and first in those 2 categories, respectively. Now, you look at where the Knicks' weaknesses actually lie. You would think, okay, rebound, but it's actually not. When you look at the Knicks rebounding against the Celtics, I believe 5 games, which includes that in-season tournament, we actually out-rebounded the Celtics. It wasn't that. It was the 3-point shooting. The Knicks struggle when we give up 14 or more threes a game, and we did just that against the Celtics, who barraged us in several games. You had the first game, KP's pick and pop with Tatum that killed us. The second game was a three-point barrage where they had 19 threes. I believe Tatum had like 5 of them. The game 3, they had 3 against us. Game 3 in the regular season against us, they had 19 threes where I think, was it Derek White went 6 for 10 from the outside. Game 4, where the starting lineup had at least 2 threes. Or at least everybody in the starting lineup had at least 2 threes against us. They're going to hit 15 against us now. We did win 1 at the end of the season, but again, it was the end of the season. Celtics already made the playoffs, so it was just a little warm-up, get guys like warmed up before the playoffs. So we struggled mightily against the Celtics and their outside prowess. I would say for the past 2 seasons, to be honest. Interesting thing that the Celtics averaged the second least amount of drives. You think, dribble drive penetration is something that kills the Knicks, and it definitely does with some other teams. With the Celtics, not so much. Now, granted, when you look at the drives, again, the second least amount of drives against the Knicks, as well as the 8th least amount of, or the 8th lowest assist percentage off those drives against the Knicks. Now, I don't think this takes into account hockey assists. I think it's a drive, kick out, direct assist. Now, if that's not the case, please check me in the comments. I might be wrong, but I think that that's what it applies to. Now, granted, the Celtics do a lot of swinging around passing, a lot of hockey assists created off that initial dribble drive during the penetration kick out. And so it's not to say that dribble drive penetration is not something that hurts us, but when you have guys like Mikal Bridges, as well as OG Anunoby, who are just so excellent in terms of that perimeter defense and rotational defense, I think a lot of that dribble drive penetration or even the wraparound, swing around passes that tends to hurt us, in the past with the Celtics, you're not going to see as much of those, man. And when you look at OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges' numbers against the Celtics, or against 2 of the Celtics players, I believe Mikal Bridges did better against Jason Tate. No, he did better against Jaylen Brown last year. I think we gave 44% from the field, which is not great. It's okay. And OG Anunoby had better numbers against Jason Tatum defensively last year. But when you just look at those 2 guys, I think the Knicks definitely have better weapons to protect against the Celtics, who love to live on the outside. They're not an inside team really like that. They live on the outside, even with KP, who loves to pick and pop with Tatum. And so when you look at what the Knicks can do this season against the Celtics, man, it's the war against the wings. I'm interested to see how the Knicks kind of neutralize that outside ability. Also, how the Knicks boat against Drew Holiday now. I know Jalen Brunson will be the main defender on him, but with guys like OG Anunoby, as well as Mikal Bridges just disrupting those passing lanes, the driving lanes as well too, with the tag defense, should definitely help out Jalen Brunson, who again is not the greatest defense, but he's not a absolute, he's not absolute bum on defense. It'd be interesting to see how those 3 guys, as well as whoever's there at center, Mitch Robinson, and then the bench as well too, how the lineups do against the Celtics this season versus the last. So when you look at other teams I mentioned, the Magic, definitely one who I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna say that I was not a little bit afraid of their physicality. They were able to outrun us, out physical us. I think the second game of the season against them, they shot extremely well from outside, but a team who just did last season, they don't have the shooters. That's why they went after guys like Klay Thompson, but Mo Wagner, Paolo Banchero, definitely some weapons to look out for. But the Knicks were able to neutralize the Magic in the last game last season without even OG Anunoby being there. It was Pressure Chu who stepped up this game in March. And so again, when the Knicks played their game, was able to disrupt Paolo Banchero, made Franz Wagner kind of I won't say a spectator, but he just was not as impactful as he was the first 2 games against us. The Knicks fared relatively well. Now you have Mikal Bridges and you have OG Anunoby at the wings. I mean, again, more of the wings, and we could shoot the ball. Just our offense is better than theirs, and our defense. Now we have weapons to match up straight up against them. I'm not scared of Magic until they get those shooters. Unless Jet Howard comes out of nowhere and becomes an absolute sniper, I'm not scared of Magic in the East. I don't think that moves us. As for the Bucks, seems like things are starting to break down a little bit. They want to move from Brook Lopez. Giannis has been getting hurt a little bit here and there. Chris Middleton, trying to play that number 2 guy. I'm just not as afraid as I was maybe years prior. I still don't think the Dame Lillard Giannis tandem is really gelled, but I'm still not scared of them in the playoffs. And Doc Rivers, to me, not scary. I mean, look at the games that we had against him last year. Lost 3 against him. One of the games should have won. Jalen Brunson had 45 points. R.J. Barrett, this is when R.J. Barrett was white hot. Had the migraine, knee issues. And then Julius Randle had a stinker. He had just a terrible game. And it still was a close game. Refs had some BS calls or lack of calls they should have made for us late in that game. And so I'm not too scared of the Bucks. And again, Giannis is an absolute beast. When he's healthy, he's still a problem. Chris Middleton's still a problem. They can still space the floor out effectively. But that's a team that, with the wings that we have now, OG Anunoby healthy, Mikal Bridges, I'm not scared of the Bucks, even with the lack of iHeart being here. But again, some other teams are just, look, there's a lot of changes that have been going on. The 76ers have been trying to stack up on some ancillary arms. Teams like them, the Pacers have been stacking up as well too. Paul George to me false boogeyman. I think that OG Anunoby going to the 76ers was more of a threat to me than Paul George going over there, who's now trying to learn from Jordan and all these guys. Look, Paul George is a great talent. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to poo-poo on him, but this idea, he said the same thing with the Clippers. Oh, he's going to the Clippers. Yo, it's over. OKC, yo, Melo and Westbrook, yo, it's over. And he didn't say it was over, but you gotta get the vibes like, yo, son, yo. Now he's with the 76ers, who I think needed more of a defensive wing and guys who get the outside shot. Again, Maxey and Embiid, good solid two-man tandem, and also another defender to kind of take off some of the beating that Embiid's legs have been getting the past few seasons. Paul George has really provided you that. If you look at outside last year, I think he played 72, 74 games. He's been injury prone. He's missed a lot of games. This guy's 34 years old. He's only getting older, right? Attrition. I'm not trying to issue on him. I'm just saying I'm not too scared of the 76ers with the addition of Paul George. Like I said, OG Anunoby probably scared me a little bit more going over there than Paul George did, just because of complimentary play. But it'll be interesting to see how the East shakes up. The Pacers will too, bringing on a Wiseman, a player that I thought the Knicks could have developed. But again, to me, I'm not too scared of Halliburton's, who's still to me best as an off guard right now. T.J. McConnell was really the engine that scared the Knicks, and obviously OG Anunoby being out. OG Anunoby's healthy, Randall's healthy, and or either of those guys being healthy, I think we beat the Pacers. The Pacers are not a tough team like that. Miles Turner, you don't drive to the basket like that. Pascal, I'll give it to Pascal, but they shot 67% against us in a few games. Come on, dogs. Come on, what are these words? The Knicks got their wings. Wore the wings. I do think that is still the Knicks versus the Celtics. We do need that backup big, but I'm interested to see how things shake out. Let me know your thoughts. How do you feel about iHeart signing with OKC, talking about he wasn't allowed to show real parts of his game, and how do you feel about Sam Presti's interesting comments? I'm not saying he wasn't committed to iHeart, but it kind of sounded like, we'll see how this shakes out. We need the rebounding, but we could pay the guy, we could overpay the guy, and they gave him a 2-year deal, essentially 2-year deal with a 3rd-year option, team option. Right? I'm just saying, give me your comments. How do you feel about Sam Presti's interesting color on the signing? How do you feel about Tyler Kolek, his impact, the guaranteed money, the record the Knicks set, giving $6.6 million to a second rounder, expectations in the summer league? What are you looking for in the summer league? It's another thing I gotta work on. What are your thoughts on the Eastern Conference? How it shakes out? Can we finally compete for that ECF? Does iHeart hurt us that much? And kind of sets us back a little bit. Let me know your thoughts, in the comment section. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Make sure to leave or hit the dark notification bell to get each and every notification for each and every video. I appreciate you guys. This is your boy Gmo, Legion Knicks. Peace, Luke. God bless. I'll see you guys on the next one.